strap us in, Nate.
Welcome to another episode of Rec Talk. Today we have Bobby Banjeree. How you doing, Bobby?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Yeah, good.
Good.
So, Bobby, you're quite the expert in the old recruitment training sector, aren't you?
Well, expert. Let's call it loose. But yeah, I've been in and around training and coaching for coming up to 8 years now. Having started as a recruiter at S3, had a horrible first year as a recruiter. I think I did my first deal after about 9 months.
Really?
Yeah, like really struggled on my market.
And they hadn't binned you off at that point?
Do you know what I mean? I was there thinking, oh my god.
She's like a likeable guy, that's all it is.
Yeah, just good around the guys.
Yeah.
No,
Good for morale.
So I was trying to work a
Kinda
big
like
data. Yeah, I was trying to work a big data market 10 years ago when big data was only within
small.
the NH. Yeah, really small niche, and you had to prove to yourself that whether there was a thing, so kind of a market there.
Mm-hmm.
So then moved on to IT infrastructure, so like server engineers and
your bread and butter.
Your bread and butter, and then was a. I wouldn't ever say that I was an incredible biller, but I was a 200k biller kind of thing. Kind of really good for 2 deals a month. That was the kind of guy I was. And so before I was a recruiter, I was a trainer. So I actually used to train people that hadn't quite done so well in life, people that were on the anti-terrorism register.
Hang on. You were training people on the anti-terrorism register.
Yeah, so when you don't go through the conventional routes of A levels and B Techs and GNVQs,
you end up on the terrorist.
Yeah. Is there A levels of terrorism? Is that what it is?
I wasn't teaching the thing.
Bobby's parents would always say, if you don't get a degree, you're going to end up on the anti-terrorism register. That's where they all end up. Right?
But,
get your fucking degree.
So we just clarify though, just as a point, Bobby's not a terrorist. And he doesn't train terrorists.
It took 2 brown people to tell me that. Thanks, guys.
Clip that, baby, yeah? Bobby's not a terrorist.
But, so we were teaching maths, English and ICT to people that hadn't gone through the kind of GCSE A-level route or the BTEC GNVQ route. And there were reasons for that. They'd either gone to youth offending institutes, or they were on the anti-terrorism watch list, or they'd been through child and adult mental health services and that kind of thing, and trying to
almost like the forgotten lot, right?
Yeah, the forgotten lot.
Fall out of the system.
That when you hear about the not in education, employment or training, we were trying to bring those people into the world of training.
There's an acronym there somewhere, isn't there?
NEETs, So neat people, and so obviously from having trained people that had not done so well and didn't want to be there because the only reason that they were there was because of getting a maintenance allowance. Having done recruitment for 3 years, when S3 asked me to become one of their regional trainers, I was like, hang on, people that want to be here and want to learn, yes, absolutely.
These idiots may have fallen into it, but they're still here, and therefore they want to be here, so I'll train them.
Want to learn is an interesting one, isn't it? Because actually want to learn and being given the ability to learn are two different things definitely in the corporate world. Probably very much so in obviously the kind of outside of corporate world in the education sector.
And the first thing I'd give away for free, if you can find people who are brand new to recruitment who are willing to learn from feedback and be coachable, that is the most fundamental behaviour that I look for in training recruiters that do well further on down the line. It's just so important that you're a sponge, but not that you're a sponge for knowledge, but also try it out. You fail, you mess up, it really doesn't matter, but it's what you learn from the process. You guys know, your first business development calls wouldn't have been amazing when you started in recruitment.
Mate, we're celebrating our 6-year anniversary today.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, amazing.
And we look back at some of our year 1 emails, and when we're like, that client rings about, and you go in your inbox and you're like, oh shit, look how bad this email is. That was after 4 years, 5 years of experience in recruitment, and then we're like, we've set up on our own, we're doing this, and our USP is blah blah blah. And we're like, no, we don't have a USP. Like we're just we're just two lads that used to work for Michael Page that thought, let's try and make our own money. Like,
well, funny enough, I put something to recruitment business owners about a couple of months ago on LinkedIn around the fact that there is no one USP.
No,
but there is actually. If you look at your offering as a business or as a recruiter, it's a combined set of things. It's not just video interviewing. It's not just your database, but it's a combination of all those things that creates that level, that kind of level of service that your clients will probably want to know about.
I've always said the biggest USP that every agency has is their people.
Of course it is.
In recruitment, because it's such a people-focused business, that's our USP. Our USP is us, our leadership style or whatever, but also our people that are doing the job. because without them, we're a completely different. If you take the 5 billers that we've got and change them out with a new set of 5 billers, well, USB is different. Our ethos slightly changes. The way we do business slightly changes because we're, unless these guys are robots and doing exactly what we're telling them to do, which we don't want. You can't. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, which is weird because obviously that gets us onto kind of the hiring aspect.
Yeah.
And funny enough, I did a talk with one of the kind of recruitment network groups recently about how we hire people but then don't choose any of their strengths. Mm-hmm. So I did a bit of research into it, and luckily the European Commission had done all the research for me, which is always useful.
So you stole their research?
I totally stole their research.
Yeah. Let's be totally clear about this.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, because the way you put that first,
reference them.
Because the way you put that first was almost like you rang them up. Like, can you do this research?
No, they did it. I just did it.
Totally stole it. Yeah.
And we look at the fact that the people that you're hiring are either kind of young millennials or Gen Z.
Yeah.
And their skill sets aren't the same skill sets that, kind of older millennials and kind of Gen X, is it?
Gen X, yeah.
Kind of look at. And it's things like, a sense of purpose and belonging. How can we work with people to understand what their sense of purpose is? It's actually looking at, people of a certain age will look at TikTok and Instagram reels rather than Facebook that we work with, dare I say our generation.
No, but
and
it's true,
Twitter.
yeah.
So actually, are we helping people by helping them create short form video for the candidates in their market? Mm-hmm. Because those are little things that we can then think about as people. I'm really fortunate that I get to look at 30-40 businesses as my clients, and then 300-400 businesses through like Team and TRN, and look at those businesses and go, well, actually, are we utilizing those skill sets when we're hiring, or certainly when we're onboarding people?
Yeah. That's an important point.
Yeah, and I think if we were to look at kind of the entire model of how sort of hiring, recognizing talent and nurturing that talent goes, generally speaking, from being in big agencies and kind of being in a small agency now, the trend is, here's Recruitment 101, now just go and fucking do it.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it?
And what they'll have is, by onboarding, it'll be like, oh yeah, look, we'll do education, we'll do training, we'll do this and that, and blah, 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 blah.
Totally.
And then you get that for the first maybe 4 weeks, and then after that, it's like, okay, go on, you know what to do now. You've got the blueprint, go and do it.
I'd almost argue that the kind of the training and onboarding that we had isn't really relevant anymore, because these guys,
completely not,
as you said, are completely different. The generation of people coming in, they're not driven by the same things that we were.
Getting people for 5 days in a room, because I'm assuming the Michael Page boot camp was very similar.
We thought it was great. Get to go to London for 5 days.
Was the same. Yeah. And actually, if you think about it, you take away 3 things. Maybe 4. You're there. You probably have taken away 3 things that actually you learn. Mm-hmm. Now, if I look at, because I'm doing a lot around focus, because my ability to focus has drastically reduced over the last few years.
You don't drink coffee anymore.
No, I don't even drink coffee. That's probably it.
Yeah,
but we work. But our ability to look at something for a sustained period of time isn't there anymore.
No.
So it's more like 1 or 2 days a week at a push.
Is that a generational thing, or is that as you get?
I think social media's had a lot to play in that. We consume information so quickly now. This is why things like TikTok and Reels and things are so. Why businesses are so focused and hyper focused their marketing on that rather than traditional kind of 30-second, 50-second ads. Even like a thing on YouTube, you can skip an ad after 5 or 10 seconds. Totally. You've only got that 5 or 10 seconds to capture that person's interest. Otherwise, it's gone.
People looking at dwell time. I know even LinkedIn are looking at like how long you spend on a particular post and stuff.
Yeah.
And so if your dwell time is about 5 to 10 seconds, then you've got to really have you've got to pack a punch in those 5 to 10 seconds. And so that's why our focus levels with candidates, clients and consultants all have to pack that initial hook to get someone to go, actually, I need to spend more than 40 seconds on this to be able to have a proper conversation with someone. And so yeah, you're right. The kind of older school training of just get everyone in a training room, do some utopian sales training because everyone's gonna get through to everyone every time. Yeah. That doesn't work. No. And so what I've tried to do a lot more is go, you know what? Let me spend some time at desk. Let me make some calls with you, because then people can see that what happens in training is they see these trainers come in and come out, and they've not done anything with them that they would do themselves.
Yeah.
So if I'm telling you to get on the phone and kind of have this conversation, I've got to be prepared to have that same conversation myself.
It's really funny, right? Because there's that bit there that we all take for granted, which is the person answering the phone.
Yeah.
How much training and development, how much time do we focus, right, on with our trainees and newbies or whatever, on what happens once that prospect answers the phone, right?
Well, that's it.
How much training do we actually give them on how to? We had it literally. We had our first cohort of people, and I was like, "That's weird. Christine's not leaving voicemails. Christine, why are you not leaving voicemails?" She goes, "I don't know how to." What do you mean you don't know how to? She goes, "I've never left the voicemail before. Like, I don't leave voicemails for my friends. They just see my missed call and they call me back."
Yeah.
And I'm like, holy shit! Well, I hadn't even thought about that.
So
like,
is that for us as the older generation to actually appreciate what these people go through and go, well, actually, what is the way that we leave some kind of messaging? So even do we look at WhatsApp and go, well, actually, should we be leaving more WhatsApp messages,
voice note,
or voice notes, or even looking at things like video introductions or whatever it is, because that's where we find ourselves more and more so. I mean, I know I find myself really uncomfortable. That's why you probably see very few of my posts are
we're
video
the same.
focused.
This is about the most time we spend in front of camera, and even then we're like far enough away from it.
Yeah, because I don't have to look at it, right?
Yeah.
It's like we're having a conversation, but it's being recorded. Yeah. Whereas, a lot of everyone else is like, right, I can be in front of a screen and I can say what's on my mind, and you'll probably respond better to it. And funny enough, that's how people are responding more. Because you look at the candidates in your market now. The senior candidates are in their mid to late 20s, and their version of being spoken to is very different to someone in their early 40s. Yeah. And it's how do we as kind of people hiring people of this certain nature, how do we respond to those changes rather than them having to respond to our way of doing things?
Yeah, because that's how we were taught.
Yeah, because the problem is with recruitment that there's always this phrase of, well, this is how we've always done it. And actually that becomes the biggest problem when it comes to hiring, when it comes to retaining, because there's a reason why retention in recruitment is at 44%.
Because they don't get given the opportunity. They don't get given the opportunity to develop.
No, well, that's it.
The ones who are naturally resilient and organised tend to be the ones who with very poor training or very poor kind of leadership, will still do all right.
Yeah.
But there's so many that slip through the net who have the potential to be really good if they're just onboarded and trained on an ongoing basis in the right way.
And you're right about the onboarding and training, but there was also this offboarding element, because we think about actually what happens when they get on the floor, and they don't have the crutch of a trainer with them constantly, or their manager is now putting the pressure to hit KPIs. And I'm not averse to KPIs. If anything, I think KPIs are a great thing to measure yourself by, but it's how you use those numbers. And those people aren't necessarily taught those particular things. It's more a case of, right, just get on the phone. And as you say, when I'm on the phone, what do I say? Or when I'm off the phone, or when the person hasn't answered, what do I do? And actually, the way that we communicate, again, thinking of in the tech industry, people are more on Slack and Discord more so than anything else, or even using Teams as more than a tool for just video meetings, right?
That's been a bit of a learn for us actually at the moment, hasn't it? In that we've got a couple of newbies who have come from big corporate, and those guys are just constantly on Teams. And as a business, we have we were on Teams during lockdown. We were on Teams kind of just to send messages and start meetings or whatever.
Yeah.
But comms between each other, we've never really done through Teams.
No.
Because we've all been in the office together. And I'm now in a position where I'm like, I've always got Teams up because I don't know what question she's going to send me, or I don't know what question he's going to send me. But those sort of platforms, even as in tune we are, I would say, with kind of new tech and everything in the market, even that's something that we as business owners miss quite easily.
Yeah, easily.
Well, that's it. And I think it's for people like us who are naturally going to hire people in the future to then go, actually, maybe we need to meet somewhere. It's not that we need to go completely there, kind of to their level of thinking, and it's not that they need to completely come to our level of thinking. How do we meet in the middle and come up with a compromise that, or certainly,
I think it's
how can we empathise?
Isn't it? It's like, right, I want you to do it my way because I feel like it will benefit you. And if you pause that sentence there, that's a very one-sided way of looking at it. But if you continue that to go, but also I can learn from you, because the way you're doing this or the way your preference is actually also just as relevant. So let's do kind of a bit of both, right? So
Yeah, totally.
I'm trying to explain to you the benefits of being on the phone more. You need to dial out more. That's the traditional way of doing recruitment, but also it's an effective way it works. You're telling me LinkedIn emails are really getting me into like the into a reach of candidates that I'm not being able to get on the phone. Well, let's do a bit of both rather than just do exclusively one or the other.
Totally, and it's actually thinking, why are we doing these things?
Yeah.
I always liken it when my training sessions to the McDonald's burger. Kind of generations beforehand were just told to have McDonald's burgers because they were amazing. They were a treat. Just the JFDI approach to kind of that, and that's how that's how we used to treat recruitment. Why do I need to make these calls? Just fucking do it. Yeah. And then our the kind of millennial generation has learned to question things because there's loads more information available. So now we know that the whole horse meat scandal, or chicken feet being used in chicken nuggets, or that was the general saying. So McDonald's have had to change their approach and be really kind of information led. They tell you where the meat comes from, where the chickens are stored, kept, how the eggs are all free range.
Go as far as naming them on adverts and all sorts of different stuff.
Ultimate transparency. Isn't it?
It's got to be, and we've got to be transparent as business leaders to go. And so when the training, the onboarding and the offboarding has to be transparent to go, well, actually, this is what's being expected of you and this is why.
To get you to this
point. And so a lot of my training, funny enough, ends up becoming a case of, towards the end of like an academy, we talk about a deal. Just a placement that's made. And then we look at it as almost like a pyramid, but looking at the candidate focus and the client focus. Because if you think about it, to make a placement, you need to have, this many jobs with interview. To have this many jobs with interview, we need to have this much pipeline. To have this much pipeline, and you can fill in the numbers as works for your business. To have this much pipeline, we need to speak to this many people. To speak to this many people, we need to have not spoken to this many people.
Yeah, you need to dial up. Yeah.
And then, funny enough, you then realise that maybe it takes 500 conversations before you can get jobs on the go.
But the problem is that what you've just described is, and will always be, however it's been packaged up, a sales funnel.
Of course it is.
And that's what...
Yeah, you just turned it the other way around.
Yeah, I think a lot of people detract from that, don't they? They look at it and think, oh, well, it was an upside-down sales funnel. Really amusing to you, that. It tickled you, didn't it?
Yeah, because he called it a pyramid, but what he was describing, I was like, it's just a sales funnel.
Yeah, it's either way, isn't it? You just work out which way, that's the problem, isn't it? You can badge things up any way you want.
Isn't it? Which way you're looking at it from.
Totally. Yeah.
But no, the point is, though, I think the danger that a lot of recruitment business leaders have when onboarding new recruiters is to try and shy away from the fact that this is a sales role. No. But what we do is we consult with our businesses and our clients. We are talent acquisition ninjas, and we're fucking all sorts of weird. And
don't get me started on these stupid names that people
bollocks, mate. It's absolute bollocks. But the whole point is that they try and use every single word they can outside of sales. Because, and generally speaking, it's because people avoid sales as much as they can.
But why is sales such a dirty word, do you think?
But that's the question, right? But it's not. The problem is, those same people doing that have hired a bunch of people who don't like sales, right? And for whatever reason, they're trying to retain those people by changing the dynamic of the role to make it feel like
constitute what sales is.
Or you just put your hands up and go, guys, this is a sales job. If you don't like the word sales, if you don't like the idea of selling something to somebody, you're in the wrong job, and I will bring in people who aren't.
But selling necessarily isn't going, do you want this?
Yeah, no,
it's and that's the problem, isn't it? What we generally tend to see is that it's that direct approach that people think that recruitment is, but actually consultative selling is a lot more nuanced. It's a lot more, there's a lot more going on, and there's actually a lot more you need to know, because again, I use this in my academies. If you look at a consultant in every, the job title, the last word in every single recruiter's job title is consultant. And yet no one thinks about what does it take to be a consultant. It takes inch-wide, mile-deep knowledge. It allows when you've become a consultant, you can come up with 3 or 4 different methods to create a way forward, and it's allowing the client or the candidate to make a decision. But when we start thinking about the value aspect and actually thinking about what value we have, because I'm sure there'll be people that will talk about sales in its kind of purest form. But when you look at the mindset of it and go, well, actually, if a good recruiter will save time, that whole time quality cost or value element, so it'll save time, get you the best possible people for the best price, and think, right, actually, what things do I do to make that happen? That's when sales becomes really easy, because then you know what your value is, and when you know the problem you solve, that's when you become a better recruiter, or certainly you're more likely to sell. You guys know the problem you solve because you save time on finding the right people by this amount of time, or let's be honest, you're probably not the cheapest recruitment agency out there, right? But it's that return on investment, because again, people look at me as a trainer and go, what's my return on investment going to be on getting this guy on board? And for you people, it's going to be the same thing. That candidate's got to have a return on investment. And actually, do we think enough about what has this candidate done to impact figures? Have they saved on cost or provided greater revenue?
But can the modern day recruiter be that consultative and be inch wide, mile deep? Because if the attention span's down and the hyper focus piece is very much kind of short, sharp burst, can somebody get to know the ins and outs of their industry and be committed to it long enough to be a great consultant?
Yeah, totally.
Recruiter?
I think you can certainly start the process off. It's taken me years to become a specialist in learning and development. That doesn't necessarily mean that I know everything. So it's a continuous learning process. And the problem is, we seem to think in recruitment that first 4 weeks or 8 weeks of training, everyone should know everything to then get on the floor, be profitable,
to forever be a successful consultant.
Yeah, exactly. And then and then weirdly, their market doesn't pan out, or they blank 2 months in a row, and then we go, right, actually, we're going to put you on some corrective action. We're going to put you on performance improvement. The one thing, one of the things I'd say is everyone needs to be on a performance improvement program, including business owners, because if you run it, if you're an amazing 500 grand biller, well, how are you going to get to 600 grand? I guess coming from an Indian background, everything was always, how do we get more out of this? I got 90% in a test. Where was the other 10%? Yeah, right. And so funny enough, people
migrant upbringings, man. They fuck you up. They fuck you up.
It's proper like unspoken trauma, isn't it?
That sounds like a whole other podcast we need to go for. But it's actually but it can be a really positive tool to then go, well, actually, how can I help you get better?
The problem is, though, the PIP has historically, especially in sales,
it's been used as a negative.
It's never been used as a like
even
a promotional.
Corrective has been very kind to it.
Yeah,
because corrective is kind of you're correcting something that's done. But actually, it's
you
generally
put someone
speaking
on a PIP to fuck them off out of the business.
Essentially, that's step 1 of 3 out the door, right?
I'm going to give you 4 to 12 weeks worth of really unrealistic targets. I'm going to give you the very minimum amount of support, and then before you know it, you're out the door. And if you don't jump yourself, I've got 12 weeks to push you. So
but now we're talking performance improvement plans as coaching. So I go into businesses, all I'm doing is giving performance improvement plans. Yeah. How do we get to the next level? How do I work with contract consultants to go from 2K to 5K, 5K to 7K, 7K to 10 and above? And so, all we're doing is going, well, where are the gaps? What do I need to do?
Are you seeing an increase in investment in that? Because I can tell you from experience that whilst there was a handful of training kind of once you're out of the boot camp at Michael Page, for example, and it might be different now, and I'm sure it is, but when we were there, I mean, the 4.5 years I was there for, after about year 1, there wasn't really any training. It was more of you figured things out yourself, you figured out what did work and didn't work, and you kind of made a mental note, right, I'm going to stop leaving voicemails, I'm going to send a text.
Well, because
I've just fixed it, the market's moving or whatever.
Yeah.
And every now and then you'd be taken away.
The directors would have a day out of the office, going into one of the regional offices and just do some training.
But there's not... so are you now seeing a trend increasing towards that direction of going, Bobby, I've got people who've got 3 to 5 years experience and they're great billers, but I'll make them even better.
Yeah, I mean, more so this year than any other year, probably, because what's happened, as you guys probably will probably either agree or disagree with, 2021, 2022 were the years where people removed themselves from having to do sales and becoming job fillers, because the market boomed. If you look at what's happened over the last 6 or 7 years with Brexit, if you imagine that the job market was like that, Brexit shrunk it like that. Then, unfortunately, people passed away with COVID, or as we mentioned before we came on air, started to do different things. So then the market shrank again. And then, weirdly, over this last year and a half, everyone's recorded best quarters, best months, best years, taking everyone on fancy holidays and all that kind of stuff. So those candidates, those available candidates, were used. So now we're where the pool was like 100, we're now fishing in a pool that's probably like 10% of where it used to be. And so we're now expecting people to have the same attitude and the same ability to pick up people in a vastly reduced market.
I would disagree with that. I don't think the market has reduced. I don't think that the clients are recruiting any less, and I don't think that candidates are searching for jobs.
Where do you think the problem is then? That's interesting.
I think the problem is attitude. I can tell you now that our finance desk, we had a consultant on our finance desk, and our finance desk is our bread and butter desk. That's what me and Nitin have done for the last 10 years. It's what people know us for, right? And I stepped away from finance recruitment to just do the management aspect of it. And our finance desk was the worst performing desk in Q1 of this year. Yeah. And our quarter actually ends, our year end is today. So our first quarter was our worst ever quarter since setting up on that finance desk. And all it took was for a good consultant to jump on it and make moves.
What did that person do differently?
It was attitude. It was the desire to want to fill. It was the desire to get on the phones, speak to clients, try and solve issues.
It's become more of a challenge. And I think and people that rise to that challenge will do better.
You're saying it was down to activity then. So do you think that
not necessarily just activity, but a combination? What that was we were talking about making hay while the sun shines off air earlier.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And when something, do you know what's that mouse with the cheese thing?
Oh yeah, who moved my cheese?
Who moved my cheese? Right, that's what it was. It was so easy to get onto PSLs, so easy to get work with big clients, so easy for you to just pick up the phone and be like, hey, look, I know you're recruiting for this. Let me jump in and help you with that.
Oh God, it was so easy to just send a candidate to a bunch of different people and just
so what you're saying is the market isn't any different. It's just the cheese has moved.
The cheese has moved.
It's the expectation of the client, the hiring businesses and the candidates that's changed, which is work harder for me. I'm not desperate for a job. Make me want the job. Work harder for my vacancy. I'm not desperate to fill a seat.
I think
work harder to win me over.
The recruitment industry was guilty of offering a 10% service and charging 20% because they could.
Yeah, and feeling like that was justified.
And now that everyone's going, well, actually, I want that proper service now, but we haven't. But we've got
what that is.
We've got a population of consultants that have not had that exposure to the same markets that probably we did in 2013, 14, 2007.
And I can give you live examples of that, right? So we talk about us being at Michael Page, right? So I got rejected from Michael Page the first time I interviewed, and so did you, right? Yeah. And we were talking sort of early 2010s, right? And when I eventually got the job at Michael Page, I ended up following the MD of the business to like 3 or 4 different regional sites for interviews.
With her consent.
Yeah, just stalking her.
It's like, there she is.
Yeah, but basically it was like, okay, I had the first interview, yeah, okay, that was great. Second interview, yeah, fine. Third interview, meet the MD, she's in Leeds. Okay, go meet her in Leeds. Yeah, she wasn't quite convinced. Need to meet her again, she's in Liverpool today. So I go to Liverpool. Meet her again, yeah, she's in Birmingham today. Go to Birmingham. And in the end, it took for me to just... Because he found me after. He was already working at my page at the time. And he's like, how did it go? I was like, either really, really well or I totally fucked it. And he's like, what do you mean? I was like, well, I basically just sat back and was like, what the fuck else do you want me to do? Like, I'm following you all up and down the country, showing you my commitment, yet you're sitting here saying, I'm still not sure. Now, fast forward 2 or 3 years, and they had a bit of a boom in terms of activity and whatnot. And they onboarded a whole bunch of consultants who were fucking awful, weren't they? They were so...
some of which hadn't even met the MD. They were just hired based on the 2 stages.
It was borderline offensive to us.
Because we need to get heads in.
Yeah, exactly. And it was borderline offensive to us because we were like, well, hang on, we had to slog to get in here. And our standards were up here, but what they did was they reduced their standards to fill a few more seats. So the issue was...
I could talk about consistent hiring processes till the cows come home, and I think in recruitment we're very seasonal about when we come up with those processes.
Absolutely.
And we're not consistent at all, because one of the biggest problems you get is headcount bonuses. And so when you give managers and directors in businesses headcount bonuses, that's a quantity, not a quality based target. And so what then happens is, I used to, as the onboarding trainer at S3, I knew when it came to November time, I'm just
going to be stacked out. Yeah.
Well, dare I say, and I'm sorry if some of those people are still listening to this, but it felt like I was polishing turds.
Yeah.
And it was like, well, how do I? So therefore, for me, it's how do I work with the business to go? Well, actually,
Yeah, like how shiny can I make this?
The hiring's got to change. You've got to have conviction in the behaviours that you want.
But and therein lies my point, right? Is that we were talking about kind of the market has changed and the pool that we're looking at has reduced. I don't think it has. I think actually what we've got is a bunch of polished turds trying to do a 20% job, where they're actually doing a 5 to 10% job.
Yeah,
and I think they're complaining about it.
I think it has reduced because you're looking at the ONS statistics around job vacancies, and even though the number of jobs is declining, the inability to fill them is still high. So we've got a slight shrinking in the available job market, but it's what we do with those unavailable candidates, those passive people, and it's how do we work with those people, and that's where some good, I'm biased, but some good training on outreach and that kind of thing, because gone are the days of just saying, "Hi, I've got this job. Are you interested in having a chat?" Which is generally what I see on LinkedIn, right?
Recruitment speech. Yeah, it's recruitment like candidate call 101, isn't it?
Well, that's candidate call. It's candidate outreach. It's any any kind of emails. That's all it really much says. Whereas what we don't do as people is get into the minds of candidates, because if we think, and it's something that I do with my trainees, up to several weeks ago, they were a candidate looking for a job. In some cases.
Yeah.
And so it's looking at them going, well, what would, how could someone work with you? How could someone outreach to you? Because if I'm a top performer in a company, my, the outreach to me is going to be very different to someone who's instantly available. But what we do is just go, I've got a job, are you interested? But when we know, you guys know, having been high performers yourself, my needs are different. It's, I want to know that I've got this growth plan. I want to know that there's this role that I play in the future, and I see that equity, bonuses comes in. And how much do our recruitment consultants pan into that idea and go, well, actually, I know that the reasons people are leaving are this, this, and this. What we might want to have a conversation about is a job opportunity with this. Are you interested in having that conversation?
I think that's an interesting point, isn't it? Is because there's almost two different pools of candidates now. And if we were to stay strictly with recruiters for the time being, there's two kind of type of recruiters. There's the ones like us who were going to eventually go off and set up on their own, and they're just kind of really thirsty for knowledge and trying to do whatever they can to build their brand and get them to a point where they can set up. And then there's the others who are basically like, look, it's my 9 to 5 thing. I'm going to come in, I'm going to do it because I'm going to have my own side hustle, or I'm going to have my personal life is way more important to me than my work life.
Or dare I say that I don't value recruitment as a career enough that I need to do something else.
Yeah.
And we've seen so many people, I'm sure, in your days, you saw those people that come in for a bit to then get something else, to do something else, to do something more seen as
more them, or
either more them or more reputable.
Yeah.
And so, we haven't spent enough time over those years, because we just said about how you can make quick money in recruitment. And one of the problems we've probably had in this last year is that rec to recs and internal recruiters have just said how easy it was for recruiters who came in last year and selling the same proposition this year. And as you know, it's a very different market. And so what we're now saying to people, what we should be saying to people, is it's a hard grind. It's a really, it's a really rewarding market, but you've got to do your hard work. And luckily there'll be people to help you do that. But so that's where you probably see, to answer a question from ages ago, I'm seeing more and more recruitment trainers do freelance work because they know that there are companies willing to go out there and ask for this training because they find it physically impossible to do it themselves.
This is where
they are, and are they finding it hard to do it themselves because of time constraints or because they're just not specialists in it?
I think a bit of both. So the time constraints, because they are either they're really busy filling jobs or they're really busy business developing. Because
plugging holes in
plugging holes, right?
Yeah.
And so they're the ones taking on that work. And if you're trying to, I guess, working with a freelance trainer or because the cost of getting someone in house, but not to do that much work, is very expensive. And then training a recruiter to turn into a trainer, really expensive. And so they look at this and go, well, actually, could we just get someone in for a couple of days?
Well, we're in the service. We're in the outsourced service industry, right? That's what we do. We're asking and expecting our clients or prospective clients to
take on a contract.
Outsource your recruitment needs to me because it's better than you doing it yourself. And that same applies, right? So some of the best kind of business leaders will say the same thing again and again, which is hire people into your business that are better than you at the job you're bringing them in to do, right?
Absolutely.
I'm not a trainer. Can I train a bunch of trainees? Of course I can, because I know what I'm doing with recruitment. Can I do it as well as you do? No, because that's not my bag. That's not my forte. And so that's where kind of you've got to leverage the. Yes, I could do this, but we're going to bastardize the arse off it and somehow manage to stumble to the end.
And so,
or I could bring a pro in and go, listen, here's my guys. You do that. Whilst I cover the phones, I'll cover the phones. I'll take the candidate calls and the client calls, and I'll make sure that everything's all sorted while these guys are learning, because that's more valuable and that's a better use of my time.
Well, again, I look at return on investment, and I look at it, and whenever I put a pitch into a client, it's not about the money it's going to cost to have me on site. It's more how much time does that free up to you for you guys to do the deals, because you look at average fees. I mean, my average fee when I was a recruiter was $11,500, and they're going, if I'm allowed to do that every month extra, then that's almost paying for itself. And I know lots of recruitment tech companies will all come in, well, it's less than a deal as far as their selling process goes.
Yeah.
But actually, in real terms, you've got to go, well, how much time does this free up to you to actually close deals off, or be able to spend the time that you don't want to spend doing this and this on the kind of things that are going to make you money. Then we've got a great platform for these people who've got someone like me to either listen in on calls, help them create calls. Yeah. I actually go out and make some calls myself, because, like I say, I'm not interested in the idea of telling someone to do something that I wouldn't do myself. Let me tell
you, in the utopian world, what it will be like.
Exactly. Yeah. And look, we've had those. This script. We've had those utopian sales trainers and this, that, and the other, and it's bollocks. Unfortunately, no one, like you were saying, no one teaches you how to handle objections and deal with objections and realize objections are your friend. Our generation
were the first batch that challenged that. I remember being sat in like training session after training session, whether it was in retail banking, whether it was in recruitment, and saying, but that's not how it happens in the real world. And it would be like, well, part that. We need to finish it. No. But that's not what's going to happen. I'm going to pitch my client at 25%, and they're going to say, "Piss off, mate. I pay 15%."
Absolutely.
And I know, but then what you try is no. I'm telling you, what's going to happen is my client is going to say, "I am not working with you unless you charge me 15%." Mr. Trainer, how do I deal with that? And it was just, we haven't quite got on to that bit yet, But our generation was one of the first ones to kind of be like, hang on a minute, this isn't what it's like in the real world, which is great now to see that actually our generation are now in that position of, let me tell you what it's really going to be like. You're going to pitch 25%. They're going to bitch and moan about it. And these are real life examples of how we've got around it. And again, our generation are the first ones that have kind of gone, it's okay to walk away from a deal. If you think the Gen Xers, but you think about the Gen Xers and the Boomers, it was always close, always be closing. You close down, you close them down, you close them. We're the only ones that kind of went, fuck off, man. I don't want to work with you. I don't want to work with you.
She's our finance recruiter, and she had it yesterday. Jumped on a BD call, and she's at the point now where she's doing BD first thing in the morning, because she's like, look, let me get the sales calls done, get them dusted, get them sorted. Maybe second or third call, wasn't it? And she's on the phone to her client, and everything's going really well. She's identified issues. She's able to solve those problems. Client's like, yeah, to be honest, though, you got to work at 10%. And you could see it on her face immediately. She's like, well, I know for a fact, I'm not going to look at Sean to see if we can get that signed off.
Ripped at me by everybody on the sales call.
She's not going to bother asking the question, because she's just like, yeah, that's not going to work for us.
I don't know who that would work for. I really can't.
You'd be surprised.
There are in accountancy and finance as well. You think in a competitive market like that, where But she did the right thing, because again, we kind of, every time these sorts of things happen, we'll kind of bat things back and forth and be like, next time that sort of happens, why don't you just challenge them? Don't be respectful, but challenge them. And with that one, she went, "Is this role not important to you then?"
Love that.
And we were like, fucking hell.
Love that.
Well, what do you mean? What do you mean? And she's like, well, I mean, you're only willing to pay 10%. I'm assuming the role's not that vital then. So why don't you call me when... And it turned out that basically the client, the candidate was going to be retiring soon. And so they aren't in a rush for it. And so she was like, well, I'll tell you what then. When that becomes more of a pressing need and you see the value in kind of paying what we charge, then call me. Because then I can support you.
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah. And it's like, Is it not that important to you?
Because business development strategy can be about, I prefer talking about insight and analytics. And actually, but that doesn't mean that you have to kind of get some data analyst to create loads of information.
Call your man at the European
Commission, right? Yeah. Run me off some data, please. It's more a case of going, look, if you want to work, if you want to recruit this yourself, this is how much it's going to cost. If you want to have access to LinkedIn Recruiter for 1 month, it's going to cost you £600 a month. Because it's somewhere between £5 and £8 grand for a license, right? If you want to have a one-off advert on JobServe, or other job boards are available, and I am open to sponsorship. But that costs £800. That's
keep saying JobServe.
That's several £100 to put. I can't tell you what. I don't know what the actual figure is, but I know it's.
But if you
somewhere
go on
between 500 and £1,000.
Learning /JobServe, you get a 10% discount.
But we don't actually make them think about the time it's going to take them to hire themselves. Because the fact is that your guys upstairs and recruiters up and down the country are spending hours creating shortlists of great candidates, doing all the vetting, understanding people, working out what the good versus the bad. And yet people don't understand how many days that's taken you. They just think the perception is of recruiters, they've just got them, click them over. They don't do anything and just press send.
Let's put it this way, right? And I think this is a really kind of interesting way to demonstrate to recruiters, clients, and candidates what is done, right? Which is you as an IT recruiter, right? So you're doing IT and infrastructure, right? If I'd have said to you, I need your help finding a mechanical engineer, and I want you to send me CVs by tomorrow. Would you have been able to commit to that? And would you have been able to deliver that by the time I needed it?
If I was month 3, as I told you, it took me 8 months, I'd be like, I'll do anything. But in real terms...
Even as an established... Even as an established recruiter, though, right? As an established kind of your 200k biller now, right? And I say to you, right, I know all your network is in IT and infrastructure, but now I need a shortlist of 5 candidates who are mechanical engineers.
I'd probably give it a go, but I wouldn't. But the problem is, I know that there are people better than me at it.
But that's the point, though, right? And as a hiring manager, if you're going to do it yourself, right, you're going to be hitting.
Yeah, you're starting from zero.
Of course you are. And as a recruiter who does it full time, starting from zero is the worst feeling in the world because oh fuck,
not having a short list of people,
I've
or
got
not
no
having
already in your mind as you're reading a job spec, you should be thinking about. Oh yeah, I've got somebody like this. I've got somebody like this.
And funny enough, that's the mindset that I try and get people to have. You've got to have someone that you know that could solve that business problem. Not this is a CV I'm going to shove in your face. It's I know that there are people because of the conversations I've had, and I could have a whole other kind of hour on what to say to good candidates. But it's about understanding the problem that is solved, and does this person solve my problem? Because I hired a trainer myself recently, and I wasn't looking at how much money they were on or what they were. I was looking at, could this person grow my business or solve a problem? And hiring managers don't, spend enough of time needing that. And if you can, your job as a 15 to 25% recruiter, maybe more than that. I know that you can go up to probably 35% on some cases. For if I'm going to be charging that kind of money, which is 10, 15, 20 grand. Now, I look at it, and the first thing I do with people is go, what can you buy for 20 grand? Well, it would be a nice Rolex. It would be maybe a car, maybe an unbelievably nice collection of handbags. Maybe that Jordan 1 collection has about 200 new pairs attached to it, whatever that looks like. But when you have that level of purchase, you expect a certain level of service, don't you?
Yeah.
And yet, if you're just sending over the basic minimum, then you're never going to get it. So how can you communicate that ROI, the return on investment they're going to get by working with you? Because the REC have come up with this stat, and I'm hoping it's true, around a...
He's stealing more data again.
This is the
REC's
data. That a 42 grand salary, if it becomes a mishire and you need to recoup that expense, is going to cost you 132 grand. Roughly just over 3 times someone's salary, based on training, infrastructure, lack of performance, recruitment fees twice. But that's also using the accounting version of time is money for training, all that kind of stuff. So you put all that in, plus a loss of potential revenue.
I mean, that sounds like a bit of a clickbait type of thing, doesn't it? Really?
Oh, totally.
REC have lost the plot by the sound of things.
No, but actually, more important than that, right? And kind of beyond all of the kind of REC made up stats and figures. But beyond all of that, how much is your time worth?
Exactly.
So for you to go through a recruitment process, you need to have that recruitment process mapped out. Like if you think it's all rainbows and unicorns, and we're going to say you're going to engage with this job on Monday. By Friday, I'm going to give you a short list of 5 candidates.
Yeah.
You're going to choose all 5 of those candidates for interview, and you're going to do an interview a day until Friday, and then by that point, you're going to pick 3 for your second interview, which will be the week after.
Totally.
And you do that. Then on Friday,
none of them are going to run late. None of them are going to call in sick. You're going to have no problems with childcare.
Where is this utopian process?
And then come that following Friday, you're going to decide, okay, I'm going to make an offer to candidate A. Candidate A accepts the job, is glad to, will hand in their notice, they won't get counter-offered or they won't accept their counter-offer, and luckily they're on a week's notice rather than a 3-month notice, and they'll be in your business by the end of that month.
And there's definitely not another bunch of recruiters all selling jobs to them.
Exactly.
The moment they hand their notice in, you've got to manage things. So I had a candidate
or a bunch
with a
of recruiters talking
notice.
to your existing team.
Yeah.
And you have no idea why the job that you're filling, you haven't even bothered finding out why that candidate's left or leaving. So you may have a systemic issue that you're not addressing. Do you know what I mean? It's like there's so much more to it.
But why should I believe you recruiters when every other recruiter is ringing me going, have you got any jobs, mate?
Yeah.
And that's the problem, isn't it?
the northern recruiters.
Absolutely right.
Mansfield recruiters, man.
Yeah, absolutely right.
I'll do it, pal.
Well, I'm originally from Hull, so not that you can tell by the accent. I don't know where this has come from.
Yeah, that's not a Hull accent at all.
No, I mean, get me drunk enough.
I actually passed my driving test in Hull.
Why?
Weird fact, right? So in
Fucking hell, what?
yeah.
I've known you nearly like 20 years.
Yeah, cut this.
Yeah. So there's an army camp in Leckensfield, which isn't far from Hull.
Leckensfield
right?
well.
And they do the like all the driver training for the army is done there.
Yeah.
So that's actually where I did my driving test.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and they're fascinated about this weird fucking bridge. There's nothing exciting about it, but like Hull's got this bridge.
It's big. Hey, it's big.
Yeah,
that's all we got.
That's like the thing to look at Hull. If you
But yeah, going back, I guess. But yeah, like the problem is the only action is, I'm going to sell you 700 candidates on one email. Which, funny enough, there's a particular recruitment agency that has me as a hiring manager on their system for IT for some reason, and they're sending me their mail shots, and they are terrible. And it is just, they've just gone off the idea, I'm just going to try and put out so many different types of candidate and hope that you say
Tell
yes.
me you BD them, right, though, and just said, listen, I get your email.
Absolutely. So I went back to their director and said, look, I can help.
Yeah,
I want to
because you need my help.
Unfortunately,
I want to help.
Because unfortunately, I feel like I need to help you because one of them said hello first name.
Excellent,
bro. You had a mail shot the other day with hello first name, but actually it was brilliant.
Oh, this was good. I'm glad you brought that up. It went hello first name, and then went only joking. Hi knitting, like blah blah blah. Picked out something that I'd spoken about on LinkedIn. And then it was like with all this stuff, and it was like, look, this might not be of interest to you. In which case, you can tell me where to go. But either way, let me know so I can update my mailing list.
Better.
And I messaged back. I was like, I liked that. That was really funny because it got me like, hang on, what the fuck is this?
Because
immediately you wanted to jump down there for fucking hell, dickhead.
It's like, exactly. This is brilliant because I could easily look at, luckily LinkedIn are making it really easy to look at your business and go, how many, what has been your percentage change in people moves over the last year?
Yeah.
And I could just use really simple bits of data to go, well, actually, I've noticed this. I've noticed that you've grown in the last year by 15%. Talk me through that growth. Much better business development tactic than just going, hi, I've got this person. And look, there's a space for specking in candidates. I love it. I think it's a really useful
We built a business on that.
Absolutely, right?
Yeah.
I absolutely love
it in the right way.
But it's how
the difference is the right way, right?
How do I show that this person actually has a benefit to you because I've actually researched your company. I understand you.
Bobby, I've got this guy here. He's delivered L&D sessions to recruiters. I know that's a market you operate in.
Exactly.
I know currently you're not hiring or you haven't been looking like you're hiring. However, you know better than anyone that this will double your capacity, and this person could cover their own costs within 3 months
because
also,
their success has been this.
Because they come with their own back book and they're ready to go.
But then I guess
that's different to going, you're a L&D business. Here's an L&D person.
Exactly, and that's
first name. Yeah. Thank you, Banerjee.
Oh God. But
what you also then have is that methodology, which is totally contradicted by somebody who's like, you're doing too much research. You're doing too much research on your phone calls. Yeah. Just bash the phone. Here's a list of people. Just phone through them.
Just get on the phones. Yeah.
What would I rather have? 5 amazing phone calls or 20 shit phone calls? Yeah. And that's the problem, isn't it? We look at and that quantity-based business isn't one that I work with.
Do you know, there's an underlying theme here, right, throughout of this, which is kind of, what do you define your recruitment business as?
Exactly.
Right? Because if your recruitment business is a stack it high, sell it cheap sales business, think kind of penny stocks, Wolf of Wall Street style, then you're not the right person for them. No, they're never going to buy into what you're talking about.
And there are trainers out there that will work with them, and that's great.
And that's it. But then if you've got that, then you can't moan about staff attrition. People leave all the time. My guys don't turn up on time. They come in late. They treat my clients like crap. They get complaints all the time. I've got bad Google reviews because systemically there's a problem within your business, and that problem is that you're treating it not like a consultancy firm or a search firm. You're treating it as like a
cash and carry.
Yeah.
But the problem you've got though is that it's not even a problem. But those businesses are the businesses where the directors are the ones that no, I'll deal with the client. Yeah. You just source me the candidates.
Yeah.
That tends to be the trend, yeah. I've noticed that.
Whereas what you want to be able to do is be able to create a culture of growth and a culture of consistent and continuous learning.
Yeah.
Because then actually going, because I even do little, one simple thing that every recruitment business could do is just go, every candidate that we're taking out to market, let us as a team, let me present my candidate to the rest of my team. Let's talk about it. Let's see what this person's been good. Because then, funny enough, everyone goes, well, what salary are they after? What other processes? What other processes are they involved in?
I missed that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then that becomes a learning culture that you can then easily implement very quickly. I'm probably doing myself out of a job here, but it's a really quick win.
You'll be secure. Well, we came to a realization recently. We've just signed up with Hoxo Media after having Sean Anderson on the podcast.
Shout out Sean Anderson and the team.
Talking to us about the concept of LinkedIn and LinkedIn branding and effectively using your LinkedIn. And I was sort of like, look, Sean, I've been banging on about this to the guys. I've been banging on about it. I've done everything, and but they just don't use it. They just don't use it. And then it was that realization of, this is his job. He's built a business off the back of this. Let him do it.
Yeah.
Stop all that time that I'm spending moaning at him, shouting like, "Come on, we need to get this out. Try this, try that."
The same problem in that I remember one of my managers, and I was absolutely adamant about working this 25 grand salaried 12% role, and I was just begging and pleading him to work it.
And I need the fee.
Yeah, and then years later, I've gone, why did I do that? Unfortunately, what we generally tend to do is we take any good advice on board by our managers as management, and not really think about it as actually, have they got my best interests at heart? Because no one knows.
No.
So actually, as a manager, if you can then create a culture like that because they know that you've got their best interests at heart. That's when you can start building on that, and then someone like me can come in and do the extra bits on top. But what freelance trainers are having to do is lots of kind of start it off, build this utopian culture, then for people to go, this is not what I signed up for.
That's all bomb wipey stuff, isn't it? I haven't come in to wipe your asses. I've come to make you better. I want to take you from good to great, not from okay and just about acceptable to a.
We had it year 2 or 3 when we had our first cohort of consultants. We had 4 people that we'd hired. Inexperienced recruiters, just totally new to recruitment. And Nathan and I were like, look, right now, we're the billers, right? We're the ones doing the recruitment. These 4 guys all started at the same time. We were like, right, let's put them through a boot camp. So we hired a sales trainer, really good guy, Warren Kemp, really good at what he does, knows his shit. I've been in recruitment for years as well. And he came in and he went through all this training with them. And all of them at various different stages of that training, and it was a week-long training or something like that, like a boot camp or something.
Yeah.
And all of them were like, yeah, well, I mean, I don't really like what he said, or I don't believe that this is the right thing, or blah, blah, blah. And they almost sort of span it in a way that he was contradicting what we were saying. And we were just I'm not sure about this. And it wasn't until when we got him back in years later for the second lot where we were like, no, look, Warren's the expert, right? He knows the training stuff. And actually everything that he said about every single one of those consultants ended up being true in the end anyway, because one of them was a bullshitter, one of them just isn't going to get it, another one was a bit kind of timid and whatever it was. So it was like, at that point, it was our realization of, no,
we're letting the tail wag the dog here.
Exactly, rather than us actually saying, this is how we want to do business, go and deliver that training. And after that, the guys loved it. They like the guys that we had now. They went through that process, and they were like, "Yeah."
I think every good trainer should go into the business and go, right, what are the fundamentals of your business? Not
What
am I going to teach you?
Well, then you're a one-trick pony, aren't you? Like,
exactly.
listen, I can only.
All you're
teach
doing
this.
is delivering a curriculum, aren't you? Then, really?
Yeah, I'm delivering my own personal agenda that I think should be the thing, rather than going, actually, what is the Michael Sharma way of doing things?
Yeah.
How can I approach speccing a candidate the Michael Sharma way? And that's how I like to operate, and I'm sure that's how lots of other recruitment trainers like to operate. And if they're not, you should be asking questions of them.
Yeah, no, that's right. So what's the plan for you and Elevate? And so how long you been doing it?
So it's been 2 years.
Okay.
It's been one of those interesting stories where I had a business partner, then I don't have a business partner.
Oh, okay.
And then
Yeah or
yeah, no, absolutely. Because we had very different ways around doing things.
Okay.
And so, yeah, funny enough, any solopreneurs have probably got the same problems as I did. You spend your first year in the business rather than on the business. And so, luckily, having Shane start with me has allowed both of us to create some kind of move, kind of like a pathway to move forward. Yeah. So, funny thing, one of the things we're going to be doing in and around the Birmingham area is doing a business development training day. Mm-hmm. So starting off with essentially the pipe, how do we start looking at strategy and pipeline, but then looking at things like Boolean searching, because I work quite closely with a lady called Gabby Preston Vipers. Tilda Raccoons.
The Raccoons, yeah.
Yeah, so she's doing the how does that work around from a Boolean and how do we find these things? And Shane's been brilliant because he's an ex-recruiter, used to work for Digital Gurus, and his at desk knowledge finished 2 months ago. And so for him, he shows those tips and tricks to help those. So we're trying to create a day where it's actually kind of interactive rather than one of those theoretical days that you see those people kind of put out. So that's predominantly the plan, really. So we're going to so we're working with about 20 odd recruitment businesses at the moment. Plan is to keep that moving out forward. Hopefully, get a couple more people. And you were saying about kind of because my infinite purpose is funny, having a few people there and being the stupidest guy in the room.
Yeah.
So that's my plan. It's how quickly I do that. That's the fun part. How about for you guys?
Well, my focus at the minute is purely on RecTools. So the running of our recruitment agency is completely in the hands of Shard at the minute. So if it goes tits up, then I'll and vice versa, right? So we're really kind of doubling down on what we're doing with RecTools in terms of the marketplace, bringing all the vendors sort of to the forefront for business decision makers. The AI playground is the busiest part of the site. You mentioned Boolean searches. That's one of the kind of busier parts of our site. So we've created an AI tool on RecTools, which you type in finance director and it gives you a Boolean search to start your build from. It's not the perfect search, but it's certainly a damn sight better than sitting there like, oh shit, what about, right?
And also it's free, you fucking moany assholes.
and it's free, yeah. But the plan is to grow and scale RecTools into a more kind of think which, but within the recruitment world.
I like that idea.
That's the plan because it needs it. Yeah, there's team out there and there's Rec, but they all do very different things. There's no one really that's specialising in that kind of startup space, and that's kind of where we see ourselves.
Yeah, our mindset is very much that of sub 10-ish recruitment businesses, sub sort of 10 people recruitment businesses, where people like us, when we set up, if we were looking for a CRM or a training provider, or we were looking for job boards or whatever, you'd have to go and do your Google searches and all that sort of stuff. Whereas with this, putting it all onto one platform, but then also getting, because the next stage is a memberships and rewards platform, where the recruiters who are going on there are going to be getting exclusive rewards and benefits from those vendors.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So
we've got deals secured now with CV Library, Voyager, Firefish, HubSpot, Zoho, the whole range of them. I know I've missed a few off. Discounts with certain umbrella companies, discount with timesheet software, discount with marketing, outsourced marketing teams. So it's sort of like just to kind of help that bottom line figure, because as we know, the first sort of 5 years, cash flow is always the issue, right?
Yeah.
So let's sort of see what we can do and help within that space. And it's all bootstrapped by the recruitment agency.
Yeah, cool.
So, it keeps us busy, allows us to do things like this, meet interesting people,
Well, where's that person? Because I want to find that.
Tabs, the guy who bought along. Yeah. Bobby's that big time. For those who can't see behind the camera at the minute, he brought his own entourage with him.
Deep. One deep, but deep nonetheless.
Oh, mate. Yeah. So if anyone wants to reach out to you, what's the best way of getting in touch?
Yeah, cool. Grab me on LinkedIn to start off with. It's elevatelearning.co as the website goes. And like I say, whatever conversations people want to have, I'd be more than willing to have them. We also do like LinkedIn Lives and stuff. So,
is it exclusively recruitment training?
We've started to branch out into SDRs as well. So, funny enough, a lot of the sales processes are the same. And it's actually how do we... Funny enough, I'm trying to create something where we can look at how do we create the SDR process and the recruitment process, because we don't demo enough of our systems to people. So actually going to different people and going, well, actually, this is how we go from your search to people. And actually trying to get people to really think about that.
That's interesting. Yeah, I suppose if everyone's so used to doing a demo when buying tech,
right?
Then if a recruiter was going, listen, Mr. Client, let me show you how I'm going to do it. Let's have an half an hour demo, and I'm going to show you my CRM, and here's the sort of search I'm going to do, and here's here's how many candidates I've got here, and of those 2,000 candidates, this is what I'm going to do with them next, and next, and next.
Because no one knows, because our clients don't empathise with what we do. Yeah. And so if we can actually show the process, and that's where...
Just see us as people pimps, don't they?
Yeah, exactly.
We got called that.
People pimps, human traffickers, you name it, those horrible terms that are put about, because they don't know enough about the stuff we put in.
Recruitment has generally been seen as the window sales or used car sales.
Because you can't, there's no denying it, right? There are shit people and there are poor service providers out there, and unfortunately bad news travels a lot further than good news. So
and what I love about the industry is that anyone can come in, and it doesn't matter who you are, creed, colour,
and make it better.
Socio-demographic background, doesn't matter, and you can make a real success of yourself. The problem is absolutely anyone without any behavioural kind of integrity can come in and make it. And so that's another thing that we're working on the idea of a psychometric for recruitment. So that'll be an interesting one
some cool
to watch the space. Yeah.
Good. Right, well, there you go. Right, well, listen, we appreciate you taking time.
Cool, no worries. Absolute pleasure.
Thanks very much. Cloudy Friday.
Yeah, thank you. Look forward to it.
Cheers. Cheers, Bobby.
Cheers to that, mate.